Hi! Yeah. Hey, so this is the first part of a two-part series about my newest song, Step by Step. In this first video, you're going to hear just from me about this first stage of the process in which I was working alone on the demo. And in the second video, I'm going to be sharing about my process of working with other musicians remotely to record the final version. This song was very fun to write and also very involved to finish, so I'm really looking forward to sharing all of that process with you so that you might learn from it in making your own songs. So now, without further ado, let's learn more about how I wrote Step by Step, step by step. Here is my dad's office in Nashville where I wrote this piece. Not bad, right?
You're too late, Mr. Bond.
So the story was that I was living in Japan and then came here for what I thought was a 4-day visit last year in March. And then this little thing called the novel coronavirus happened, and I ended up living here for about 4 months. So this is where I lived when I wrote Step by Step. The way that the idea initially came to me was as this somber piano thing. Kind of even like a march feel. Then I thought I could give the piano more of a sense of movement if I arpeggiated the chords. And next I thought I would move that part from piano onto harp, basically just to make it more Zelda style, and I really liked it. And for this idea, I really did write it from a theoretical perspective. So the chord progression goes 3, 4, 3, 1, 3, 4, 3, 1, 4, and then 4, 4, or flat 7. And you can see it pretty easily because it's all in C major. E minor, then F, then E minor, then C. The second time we do the progression, E minor, F, E minor, C, F, B flat, and then from the B flat, I had this idea of then going up to a B dominant to tonicize the E, to turn it back around. When we go C to F to B flat, we are moving up in fourths, 1, 4, then 4 of 4, and in so doing, you're using perfect movement to go into the dark side of the circle of fifths. Yeah, so that's how the chords worked, but a lot of the development of this idea was taking it away from the space of just hold out a chord, hold out another chord, hold out another chord, into arpeggiation, themes, lines, melodies, etc. When I wrote this song, I had mostly been writing pieces for string quartet or string quartet plus guitar or piano. For this, I knew that I wanted a string quartet, but I also knew that I wanted that quartet to build up one voice at a time so that it kind of came together as the piece went on, as opposed to starting out with all 4 voices. This is what the instrumentation is going to be right from the get-go. So I decided to start it with just violin 1 and the harp. And then in bars 25 through 35, one by one, you have the bass, then violin 2, viola, and cello come in, such that the ensemble takes fuller form over time. Another thing I'll note about the strings, kind of a pro tip, I guess, is that I actually don't usually like using ensemble patches when I am recording strings. I like to record things in with solo patches, so it's a VST for just the violin or just the cello, for example. And I like doing this because it forces me to write one voice at a time. This is really important because you want to make sure that the viola part isn't just the third of every chord or the fifth of every chord. Ideally, from a classical perspective, each part is a part on its own. And from a player's perspective, you just don't want to give people parts that are boring and sucky to play. And what I mean by that is that if you really spend time on each player's part and make it moving and fun to play, you're just going to get a much better performance out of them because they're going to really enjoy playing it. By the way, that Glock in Logic is kind of a weird signature of mine, much to the annoyance of some of my collaborators. It's not like it's necessarily knock your socks off realistic, but it's good enough for me, and I've used it in almost every record that I've ever worked on. Is the Glock that is on the song. And yes, the piano part does kind of play the lick. In the piano version of the song, there's also the Mistuda Licc, so got that bass covered. Even in the final version that I released, the piano and the percussion are all just VSTs. For the piano in the ensemble version, I used KEYSCAPE, and for the piano version itself, I used the Grandeur from Native Instruments. There were a couple moments later on in the piece where I wanted a greater amount of harmonic density, and toward that goal, I actually added a third violin voice, a violin 3 part. This is something that I learned from transcribing some of the pieces from Kimi no Nawa. In some of the songs for that film, including the themes for Goshintai, there are moments where there is a third violin voice, such that the string section can have a more complex chord going on. But as the piece started taking shape, it became clear that I wanted to expand to a slightly larger ensemble and to add a woodwind section. So now the instrumentation looked like harp, piano, strings, flute, and oboe. And it was only for the very end that I expanded the woodwind section to be an actual quartet, including bassoon and clarinet. There's this sort of quiet major interlude toward the end of the piece. was really a mistake, honestly. Basically all it was is that during the previous section, I was alternating between F major 7 and G flat minor 9, F major 7, G flat minor 9, and recognized that if I wanted to, I could make that G flat minor 9 into a G7 of some sort, a dominant of some sort, and to tonicize B, and in so doing, modulate the key from C to B. What I did then was repeat the melody in B with a more major harmonization. And for the finale, I decided to restate the B section in our new key, and also to add percussion in a similar way to the climax of the orchestral version of Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. That's right, folks. It all still comes back to this one song I taught you about 2 years ago. I guess I'm still sorta into Sakamoto. I'm really into Sakamoto. One note about this oboe line at the end. I kind of pictured there is this party of all the forest animals, and the ducks show up late, and they're like, wait for me, baka 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 baka. And this taiko player that you see in this part of the video, that is Mitchell Fukumoto from Stanford Taiko, of which I was a member in 2009 and 10, so quite a while ago. And at the very end, if you think you're hearing Arhu, that is not your ear auto-completing. There's actually an Arhu there. As you might know, I just really love the dramaticism of the Arhu whenever it carries the main melody of something. And this is used all over the score for Legend of Korra. And I didn't really use the Arhu in that way here, but I just wanted the main melody to kind of be supported a little bit by that type of voice. Okay, so that was the process of making the demo, which really was a weekend of me coming back and forth into this room and acting like a bit of a crazy person. I would be working on something and I'd go in the bathroom and then be like, oh wait, there's this other thing for me to add. Oh, I'm gonna go do wait a second, gotta write more. Yeah, sometimes when you're really on a roll, it doesn't seem very sane. That's totally normal. Thanks a lot for tuning into this video and to watching it all the way through. I know that might have been a lot of information, but I hope that some of it was valuable for you. If you made it this far and you're not part of my Discord community, I want to make sure that you know about it because it's honestly the best part of this channel. It's a super supportive community of musicians, fellow composers, and just music buffs and theory nerds who are into contemporary Japanese music as well as other genres. We have channels where we give feedback to each other on drafts, where we share songs that we're excited about, cool new songs, and even just riff about anime and video games, and sometimes we hang out. It's really great. Anyway, if that's of interest to you, the link is in the description. I'm on there fairly frequently, so you can ask me questions directly about anything that you want to learn about in these videos. And I'll leave it at that for now, but next time you'll hear from me about the process of collaborating with other musicians to make the final draft. There's going to be interviews with some pretty cool musicians, so I hope you're excited to come back for that. But until next time, God, why am I snapping? God, should I do that? I'll try it. じゃあね。